Good, good. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in the Vietnam Education Foundation. I have to tell you, my name is McNamara, but I'm not related to the McNamara. Everybody asks.
Uncle Robert?
That's my husband's name, and he's not related either. My maiden name is McCann, so I'm still very Irish. But at any rate, I just wanted to explain that because people look at me and they look at my age and they say, So no relationship. But I'd like to, before I give a brief presentation, I'd like to tell you to be sure to pick up some of the information we have on the table in the back. We have a brochure in English, one in Vietnamese as well. And the most updated summary of data is on the sheet here. And it's an overview of VEF. Please take as many copies as you wish. Please share them with your friends, with your family, etc. I also have one copy, I will pass this around, of what is called the Achievements and Directory. And this has all of our fellows. You'll understand who they are. They're graduate students here in the U.S. Our scholars, who are postdocs, Vietnamese doing postdoc work for up to a year. And the third category is American professors called faculty scholars. Their names are in here, their contact information, what they're doing, their publications, their achievements, their patents, their honors, all of that. For us, this is evidence of some of the really excellent work that the young men and women, the visiting scholars, the American professors are doing for Vietnam and the United States. So let me pass this around. This is available at our website, searchable. So if you are interested, who's doing chemistry? Okay? Or who is from whatever university in Vietnam? Or who is at whatever university in the United States? That is searchable at our website. This is last year's. My staff are updating this. We will have 2014 soon. All the alumni are in here. So some people have asked, what do they do when they finish? And so that information is here too, what our alumni are doing in Vietnam as well. So let me go ahead and pass this around, and please take a look at that. And then please visit our website. So with that, thank you, Quinn, for also doing the changes of the slides. But before we start, I want to thank Quinn Vuong, and also An Lan Nguyen, and also David Jung, who are from our board of directors, David Zoom, the two different pronunciations, I understand, but who are with our board of directors that are so dedicated to the work that we do and dedicated to help the Vietnamese American community understand more about who we are. We have some other Vietnamese Americans on the board as well. And in fact, from the beginning of VEF, we had Vietnamese Americans. The previous two executive directors were Vietnamese American. I'm the first non-Vietnamese American, but I'm very Vietnamese. So, all right, let's go ahead and begin then. Let me give you an overview of VEF as we are known. We were created when Vietnam and the U.S. reestablished the ties. When Bill Clinton went to Vietnam and said, and arranged for Vietnam and the United States to reestablish the relationship, the agreement was Vietnam had to repay the debt that they owed to the United States. And therefore, in repaying that debt, the money coming back to the United States, becoming U.S. government funds, John McCain, John Kerry, and several others, senators and representatives, said, let's make this money work for Vietnam and the United States through educational exchange. And therefore, VEF was created. We only get $5 million a year. The rest of the money goes to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USAID. So we don't get all of the money. We wish we did. We've asked, and they said no. So we tried, but we have $5 million a year for our programs until 2018. So that's how we were created. An idea about how to really help both of our countries through educational exchange It was an act of Congress then that was passed in 2000. Operations began in 2003. It took time for all of the arrangements to put together a board of directors, to find an executive director, and operations began in 2003. So we are very young. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary just this past year. 10 years is very, very young. And what is the reason? As I've said already, is to build the relationship between the United States and Vietnam through educational exchange. Science and technology was the focus, because science and technology is helpful no matter what, in helping in the foundation of any country. So that had been determined, and is why in the legislation that created us, it specifies only the STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. VEF could do a lot more. We have the infrastructure. The U.S. universities are interested in more Vietnamese coming in all the fields. But our legislation specified those fields. Therefore, that is what we can spend our money on. So all of our focus is in the STEM fields. We would be open to more. It has to be an act of Congress or a change where Congress says, yes, let's add this field and that field, and let's do this, let's do that. But we have to act based on the legislation passed by Congress. So it is fixed funding, $5 million until 2018. Why 2018? The debt is repaid. And where are there other monies? The question gets asked of me, what about after 2018? We would be happy to continue if Congress decides to do so. There's a lot of interest. We've been told everybody would love to see us continue. The question is how that would happen. That has to be an act of Congress. When I visit people on the Hill, when our board members go with me, and we all go up on the Hill and talk to senators and representatives, people in Congress that are interested in Vietnam, we tell them, we are capable, we are interested, you are the ones who have to decide, because I'm not the one to decide on that. So let's go ahead here. I've already mentioned the STEM fields. Now, what are the exchange programs? Our flagship program is the fellowship program, and today you have 3 of our fellows who are going to UC Berkeley. We have placed fellows at over 90 of the best universities in the United States, and I can tell you more about that as well. The fellowship program, 467 to date. By this fall, we will have over 500. Over 500 who are, what degrees are they going for? Again, in our legislation, it is a graduate degree. We cannot do undergraduate. It is specified graduate. And our board, early on, decided that we wanted to focus on doctorates. So about 95% of our fellows are pursuing doctoral degrees. Why? Because a doctorate is extremely solid research, and Vietnam needs that in their universities. How to do the best research in the world, to take that back to universities, to take it back to the corporate sector in Vietnam. Research is going on in the corporate sector in Vietnam as well. To take that good research back, all that experience, and if you've got a doctorate, the chances are that you will be moving forward in a leadership position. That's what VEF wanted. The board of directors wanted very strong leaders for Vietnam. Leaders, therefore, that will help the U.S. as well in building that relationship. So this coming year, we will have the 40 fellowships. You can do the math. That's why it will be over 500. And it starts to diminish, and you ask why. Why is it less? 32 the next year. 5 million is all we have, and our funds end in 2018. But the legislation also says that VEF must remain in existence until our last fellow finishes their program and returns to Vietnam. So, we are figuring 2024. I know, it's hard to think. 2024, 2025, that's a long way out. So we have to make our money last We will be diminishing somewhat in size, but we must take care of our program participants that are here in the U.S. until they finish their program. So, the Visiting Scholar Grants. Now, this is a smaller program, but very powerful. These are Vietnamese nationals who have a PhD already, and maybe have never had an opportunity to come to the United States. In fact, most of them have not. And now we give priority to those who have not been to the United States. And it is for postdoctoral training, research, and study at least 5 months and up to 12 months at a U.S. university. And it's a small number. It'll be about 50 by this next fall, this next year. And you can see what the numbers are. And then our third program is for Americans. And so you could go on to the next slide. The third program is for what we call U.S. faculty scholars. This is for American professors at a high level. They must be at least associate professor and above. Why? Because we want professors who are in a position at their university to make decisions, to help move forward cooperative arrangements and collaborative activities with Vietnamese universities. So it's a strong program, but again, very small. 37 grants so far. We only have one for this upcoming year. But this is the area, the faculty scholar grants, where we see that factor of medicine show up. We have medical doctors who are also academicians from the United States who are teaching in Vietnam. Surgery is one aspect. Surgeons, for example. We've had people who are experts in immunology and asthma and that type of thing. Lots of different, emergency medicine is the most recent one I'm thinking of too. The University of Nebraska, their medical school, they're very interested in emergency medicine for Vietnam. Vietnam is very interested in that help. So we had a U.S. faculty scholar who was teaching in Vietnam emergency medicine, all the best practices of emergency medicine. The fellowship program, let me give you a little more information. Vietnamese by citizenship. They have to be a college graduate. They have to have a GPA, that means grade point average, of 7 out of 10. And you think 7 is not very high. It is for Vietnam. It is rare for the Vietnamese in their undergraduate studies to get even an 8. We have some of our fellows who have 8s and even 9s, but that is extremely rare. It's a very small percentage. So a 7 out of 10 on the Vietnamese scale is like a B+. So it's a very good grading scale. And they have to have a bachelor's degree. Working experience is not required. Let's go on with the other elements. And they must have some level of English language, and they can demonstrate that, the applicant, by giving us a TOEFL score. That means a test of English as the foreign language. 500 on the paper-based test. Usually our average of the applicants is really around 550, 560. We have interviewed candidates with over 600, 620, 630, which is what Harvard requires. And they were not recommended by the U.S. professors who interviewed them. Why? They didn't do a very good job of expressing what they want to do, why they want to do it, why that university, what are they going to do to bring back to Vietnam. So they didn't make it. So it's not just the TOEFL score. It is all of that academic merit, why you want to do what you are saying that you want to do. Did we see the rest of that? Sorry. I think that we got through that. Okay. The IELTS, if you've never heard of it, is the British equivalent. Some U.S. universities are now accepting the IELTS. It's an intensive international English language test. 6 is a minimum. And these scores, the applicants are getting these scores even a year before they apply. So by the time they apply to us, most of them, their English is even better than that, and they must all meet the English language requirement of the U.S. university, no matter what it is. The U.S. university says 600, that's what they have to get. Okay? The U.S. universities have no obligation to accept any of our fellows because of the EF. They accept our fellows based on all of the merit, the academic merit that that fellow brings. So that's a very important factor. And again, these young men and women are the best and the brightest from Vietnam. Or they can get a degree if they have a degree from an English-speaking country. The GRE, the Graduate Record Exam, they have to have a score on the Graduate Record Exam. We do not any longer require a minimum score because the universities don't require a minimum score. The GRE is just one factor in deciding about the admission of an international student applying at that school. I can tell you very proudly, VEF was the one who brought the GRE to Vietnam. It did not exist in Vietnam. When we first started, we asked ETS to help us out. They came, they were giving the GRE, and now it is officially there. Anybody can take the GRE. So if you know any of your friends, family, otherwise, any acquaintances at all that want to go to graduate school in the United States, they need to take their GRE, and it is available in Vietnam. So, and fairly recently, only about 3 years ago, fully available. So to prepare for a VEF fellowship application, this is all online. Again, if any of you know of anybody who is interested, they have to prepare a lot to get everything ready to apply. All their diplomas and transcripts. And then we verify that when they come to a particular session that we have, preparing them for the oral exam. We have to verify everything that this is an authentic transcript, an authentic diploma. It has to be verified in Vietnam, official, like notarized, etc. The TOEFL scores, then we verify those are all authentic. Same with the GRE. They have to prepare an academic statement. Why do you want to do this? And what good is it for anybody? What good is your research? How important is this to Vietnam? Because you are returning to Vietnam. How important is it in your field? How important is it for the world? So they have to prepare an academic statement and a personal statement, what it means to them personally to be able to get a fellowship. 3 letters of reference. Typically these are from the Vietnamese university professors. All of this has to be in English. And when they apply, they have to tell us which 5 universities they want to go to, their priority universities. So they've already had to do the research about which school they want to go to and why. We need to know why. And which professor do they want to study with at that university and why. It's a lot of research on the part of the applicant to know in terms of applying for a VEF fellowship. The applications are only available online. All of our applications are only online. Now, throughout Vietnam, anybody applying, they have fairly easy access these days to computers that, if it's not in their home, in computer centers in their area. So let's go ahead in terms of the application procedure. So the first round is we examine all of the material that has been provided. We examine all the information that's been provided to authenticate it, to be sure that they're qualified. Every year we get somebody who is applying in a different field. They want our fellowship. It's a field we can't support. They want our fellowship, but they don't have the minimum scores. Sorry, come back next year. So we have to be sure that they're all qualified. The second round is an oral exam interview, and that is held in Vietnam by top U.S. professors. And then the third round, thank you, Quinn, is the admission to a U.S. university. So even when they have been interviewed in Vietnam by U.S. professors, the 2 professors who interview them face-to-face, each person individually, face-to-face, in English for at least 45 minutes on the science. How do you build that bridge? What is the formula for this? How did you come to that decision? It's all scientific. Even though they've been recommended by the U.S. professors, they still need to be admitted to a U.S. university. Every year we get a couple that don't get admitted. That's fine. We tell them to come back, apply again, try again. And we've had the most, we think, as far as our research, is that the one fellow who tried 3 times and he made it. So then he became a fellow after 3 times. He didn't give up. Okay, and so an important note is when they apply, it's almost 2 years before they begin fall studies. It's that far in advance. All of our fellowship recipients, all of our grant recipients are approved by the VEF Board of Directors, who look at it, look at the application, and they want to confirm that all of the work that the staff have done, the U.S. professors have done, that everything is in place, and the board is the final one to approve. So here's the VEF financial support. How does a fellowship work? $27,000 for the first 2 years. So a total of $54,000. This is a grant to the university. In exchange, the university must supplement that in order to provide for all tuition, all required fees, all required health insurance, and a monthly stipend that is equivalent to any other graduate student in that particular department. And it varies from department to department. So the university must agree to that. So that's for masters and PhDs. So you can imagine $27,000 is not enough for most of the top universities. So they put in quite a bit. They are very interested in these young budding scientists from Vietnam. Now, from the 3rd year, the U.S. university must fully fund the fellow, completely. And that is done typically through a graduate assistantship. Basically, the student must work. And that's at least 20 hours a week. Not at least that they cannot work any more than 20 hours a week. And they're typically research assistantships. So that's how the funding works. I can tell you more if you wish. In addition, we provide some other things. It says, maybe a little hard to read there. Excuse me, our professional development grant, $1,000 each year for the first 2 years so that our fellow can buy a computer, get software, travel to conferences, etc., get professional subscriptions. And so again, that is money given to the university to issue to our fellow. And then the other type of financial support we provide, and this is same for the next group of people that we'll be talking about. So we pay for any of the test scores that are submitted to the schools. So any of those fees, and there are fees around it. We pay for the GRE subject test. We reimburse our fellows. We have a 4 or 5 day orientation in Vietnam before they leave to prepare them about all the cultural differences. A lot of cultural differences they'll face, a lot of academic differences. We want our fellows to be successful. It is success for them. It is success for the U.S. government. Our program to be successful is very important for the U.S. government. So we do everything to find the best scientists and to prepare them the best that we can. We take care of everything for the visa if there's a cost, and health checkup and immunizations, anything that is required by the university, we pay for that. We pay the round-trip ticket economy to the U.S. and then back at the end of their program. We give them a settling-in allowance of $500, and we also make all the payments and take care of the expenses for them to come to an annual conference here in the U.S., where we bring everybody together, help in their networking, help answer questions, be sure that they're on track, etc. Provide training, leadership, etc. The Visiting Scholar Program, I've mentioned it already, but we'll go through this quickly so then we can answer any of your questions. Vietnamese by citizenship again, as is required in the legislation. The person must have a PhD. What I have seen over these years with this younger program here of the PhDs, many of these PhD holders have their degrees from Eastern Europe, the former Eastern Europe, from Russia, and this is their first time to look at academia in the U.S. So it's a great opportunity for them to learn about academia here, and again, take that back to the Vietnamese universities. They have to demonstrate a high level of English proficiency because they have to exist here in the U.S. for at least 5 months, up to a year. The application is, all of this information is at our website. They also have to show us diplomas and transcripts. They have to show us their professional development plan. What are you going to do at the university? Who is that U.S. mentor? What American professor or professors are you working with who want to work with you? You know, you can say, yeah, I'd like to work with him, but he doesn't have time. Who are you going to work with at that university We have to see a letter from that professor and saying why that professor wants to work with you from Vietnam on what you're interested in, and what kinds of things do you want to do at the university. That's the professional development plan. They also have to show us their training plan for when they return. They're required to train others in Vietnam when they go back. So they've got to train other trainers, and that's our idea of spreading the wealth of information and showing others what they have learned here in the U.S. They have to get the invitation letter from the U.S. host institution, and they have to get a commitment letter from the Vietnamese university that they are allowed to leave from their teaching post, and of course the job remains for them when they come back, and that the university is going to allow them, and in fact even provide financial support for them to train others when they go back to Vietnam. So procedures or application procedures, they're available again only online. The visiting scholars are also interviewed by U.S. scientists and professors. So if any of you know Vietnamese who have a PhD in the STEM fields, this might be a program for them to come to the U.S. and study at an American university of their choice. It's a small program, though we don't have the numbers that we do for our fellowship program. We do the qualification screening, they're interviewed face-to-face, and then again, they're all approved by our board of directors. The financial support, we pay for everything, and the reason why is it's a short-term program. At most universities here in the U.S., a postdoc program is 2 to 3 years. And ours is from 5 months to 12 months. So we need to pay for them because U.S. universities are not able to have that person teaching for them, which therefore would pay for the time that they're here. So we provide the stipend to them. Many U.S. universities supplement that with additional funds, actually. A professional development grant of $300 per month, and then the same types of expenses that we provide for our fellows as well. And the next program, the U.S. Faculty Scholar Program, this too, it may be of interest to you. Anybody that you know who has an interest in Vietnam, American professor, has an interest in Vietnam, and they're in the STEM fields, and they'd like to teach at a Vietnamese university, we provide a significant grant that I'll tell you about here in a minute. It must be a U.S. citizen. They have to be, at the last slide, have to be associate professor or higher. Again, as I said before, professor and even emeritus, somebody who's retired, because they might have the time to do it as well. And they can, this is how they apply. They need to provide their resume, an important teaching plan. What are they going to teach at the Vietnamese university? Why is that important? How is that helping Vietnam? How are you going to continue that after this teaching period? We see it as seed money to a certain extent in establishing cooperation between that U.S. university and that Vietnamese university or universities. So many Vietnamese universities are interested in having excellent American professors that some of our faculty scholars are able to teach at one university and video conference that to another in another part of Vietnam. There's great interest in having American professors come and teach at Vietnamese universities. They also provide a full program budget that we have to look at and we go over with a fine-tooth comb because you cannot spend monies on this, but you can spend monies on that because it's U.S. federal government monies. So we monitor that very closely. They have to be invited from the Vietnamese host institution. And would they have to get a commitment letter from the U.S. host institution that agrees that the professor can take that time to teach that course. And, by the way, the professor can do it on site in Vietnam, or they can do it via video conferencing from the U.S. Live, interactive video conferencing. If it is video conferencing, they must go to Vietnam at the beginning and at the end of the course. Okay? And I think the application procedures, again, all online, qualification screening. We have American professors in the field look at their applications and review. And we have, typically we have professors who have experience with Vietnam already, who've been to Vietnam, they know Vietnam, and they're able to say, yes, this is really great. This will benefit Vietnam from all that we know. Yes, this sounds like an excellent plan that will lead to longer-term cooperation. Then there is a phone interview also with professors, typically past U.S. faculty scholars, and then our board of directors approves. And the financial support, it's a significant grant up to $55,000. That is used for salary, their own salary, if necessary, equipment, video conferencing equipment, books, scientific equipment. And if they are getting that equipment, it's left at the Vietnamese university. If they need to boost any equipment here at the US university as well, then the monies can be used for that, etc. Lots of things that they can use that money for. Most of the professors don't need that much. They use a smaller amount, and in that way we're able to give more monies. And everything needs to be included into the grant. Their travel, accommodations, all of the things that are listed here. Cost sharing is expected. We expect that the US university is going to give some funds. Maybe pay for that stipend and the monies and the teaching assistant and all the time in the video conferencing room and all the technical assistance, etc. And the Vietnamese university also must show there's a dedication that they need to cost share, and they would maybe pick up for the teaching assistants, take care of any of the expenses for the classrooms and the technical aspects of the course. And VEF will pay for their annual conference for them to attend and be part of our annual conference of all of our program participants here in the US. So, what is VEF doing? We are really a quality organization with high standards of excellence, and we are training top-level professionals, teachers, and researchers for Vietnam. We are building the relationship between the US and Vietnam in terms of long-term cooperation. These fellows, when they go back to Vietnam, they will have already established relationships here at US universities with professors, with departments. They're able to continue and build on how they might help each country. There's a lot of interest at US universities in Vietnam. A lot in terms of research and all that Vietnam offers in many different fields. We have a project here that's being described in terms of the deltas and the wetlands. How important is that for the southern part of Vietnam? Now, how important is all that's happening in the delta of Vietnam with our delta here in Louisiana? Extremely important. A lot of cooperation. Each country learning from each other on the deltas and the problems. You're solving it this way? Hey, maybe we can do it here. You found that out? Maybe that'll help us here. Tremendous amount of cooperation back and forth on all kinds of science between universities and academics and scientists. So we're really developing a high-level knowledge of the latest developments in the STEM fields and a lot of cooperation. And so that we see as success for the US-Vietnam relationship. And here is information in terms of all the programs. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I know our board members would too. Thank you.